Scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, and so really what we're trying to do is just keep people from perishing spiritually, emotionally, physically. Our focus should be on the Lord's work with all of the people that we serve, and not just discounting the fact that if mom and dad are loved and educated and equipped, they're more than capable. We want them to be the most fierce advocates for their child.
Welcome to Calvary Conversations. My name is Shaun LePage. I'm the Ministry Studies Department Chair and Assistant Professor. And my guest today is Kathy Edwards, Chief Executive Officer for Resource Health Services in Lee's Summit, Missouri. Thank you for joining me today, Kathy.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
My pleasure. So I've asked Kathy to have a conversation with me today about one of the most divisive issues I can even think of, and that is abortion. More specifically, though, Kathy, I want to get your ideas for how we can have productive conversations with the people in our lives about this issue, because ultimately we not only want to save human lives by fighting this battle against abortion, but we also want to change hearts, to embrace the sacredness of human life. And so we want to win people over. We don't want to just legislate this thing out of existence, although we do want to do that. But we want to win hearts, So that's what I really want to talk about today. But first, I'd like you to give us a brief history of Resource Health.
Sure. Well, I'm really glad that you're giving us the opportunity to talk about our longevity serving in the community of Kansas City. We started out in 1992 as a branch pregnancy resource center of a ministry in Kansas City called the Lighthouse. Probably some of your listeners will know about the Lighthouse. It was a maternity home established in Midtown, really with the idea that women who were at risk for choosing abortion could go there and have a safe place to stay. So in the early 90s, they were opening crisis pregnancy centers throughout the city, and we were one of those. So we were originally known as the Lighthouse in Blue Springs, where we started. In 1998, the Lighthouse refocused on their mission, and they helped the few pregnancy centers that they had to become independent nonprofits, still very much working with that ministry. But at that time, we chose a board of directors, and they chose the name Rachel House, primarily because Rachel in the Bible is weeping and mourning because her children are no more, and they wanted to prevent that weeping and mourning. And then at the time, we were in a small house, so Rachel House seemed to make a lot of difference. And that name served us well for many, many years. But as like you said, the abortion debate gets bigger and bigger, we realized that we had an opportunity to reach more men and women who are vulnerable to choosing abortion as an option to their unplanned pregnancy if we had a name that made more sense to them. They don't know who Rachel is. And number one, we're no longer in a house. Number two, they aren't generally looking for a place to live. So the name Rachel House really didn't make much sense to them, although it was very dear to many of our hearts. We selected the name Resource Health because not only are we able to provide needed medical services for men and women at the beginning of their journey, but we are also resourced well with other Christian organizations and can really get them the help that they need. So that's kind of the history of us in a nutshell.
Well, great. So you mentioned men and women. Could you tell us a little bit about your clients, maybe in a general sense? Who are you serving, and what exactly are you trying to do for them? I know you offer a lot more services than perhaps people are aware of. So could you talk about who your clients are and what you're trying to do for them?
Sure. Traditionally, pregnancy resource centers started out primarily trying to reach a woman who is in an unplanned pregnancy. I think the other reason that we started out that way because the law uh, recognizes her choice, whereas a father's choice is really not recognized legally. But several years ago, after serving thousands of young women, women of all ages, with crisis pregnancy, we began to get a lot of questions from people in the community about what we were doing for the men. So we started a men's program, which is continuing to grow and just astound us. But this is kind of the way it works. Young man, young woman realizes that there might be an unexpected, unplanned pregnancy in their life, and they search for us or they talk with their friends, but somehow they get referred to Resource Health. They can go online and make an appointment to come in, or they can just walk in. We have 4 centers currently in Kansas City. We're up in the Northland, we're kind of by Worlds of Fun. We are in Independence, Nolan Road and 24 Highway. We also have a center in the city near Swope Healthcare, and then we have our pregnancy center and administrative offices in Lee Summit, Missouri. So we have currently 4, working on opening a 5th center sometime next year. But traditionally, men and women come in to find out for sure if there is actually a pregnancy. About 75 to 80% of those who walk in will have a positive pregnancy test. So when a man and a woman come in together, we have trained client advocates that meet with them. We have females that meet with our female clients, and then men who meet with our male clients. That initial engagement is just trying to help understand where they are in life and what they're thinking and how they're feeling about the pregnancy, and to help them feel comfortable knowing that someone wants to help them, someone wants to walk with them. The next step would be when a positive pregnancy test comes up, then the couple would be asked if they would like to have a free ultrasound. And most of our clients who have a positive pregnancy test are eager to have an ultrasound. So at that point, mom and dad are able to not just hear about fetal development, but they're actually able to see their own child. Even as early as 6 weeks, you can still see the heartbeat, and you can see that little bean shape, that little, tiny baby in there. And this tool has a really dramatic impact on them. First of all, I think it makes it a reality. This isn't just some abstract thing. We're talking about a blob of tissue. This blob of tissue has a heartbeat, and it has a body shape, and it's our child. And so we find that depending on all the circumstances, if it's mom alone or mom and dad together, that anywhere between 80 and 90% of the time after that ultrasound, this couple will want to choose life for their child. So following that appointment, we set up a resource appointment with them where they come back in. We explain to them our education programs for both mother and father. And we also look into other resources that they might need in the community. They're assigned a case manager, and their journey with Resource Health begins. So they will come in for classes and private counseling sessions with their case manager to cover all the issues that they need. They're getting really good education about how to de-stress, how to take care of their baby, whether they're going to marry or whether they're going to be parents living separately. They get relationship advice, how to parent this child together. And I think most people will think, oh, I bet the moms really like that. And they do. but the dads really like it too. They really love being able to know that they're prepared to take care of their child and prepared to help their girlfriend, their wife, and hopefully they're going to be more prepared to be a family and make some changes in their lives and some good investment in the communities where they serve. In addition to that, then we follow with a mentoring or discipleship program. So each of our clients, whether male or female, can join a mentoring class, a discipleship class at one of our partnering churches, or they can just get connected to a male or a man or a woman who wants to disciple them one-on-one. And that's been really successful as well.
Well, that's exciting. You all are doing a full life kind of program there, not just offering pregnancy tests, right? And I've heard such great things about the sonograms, that how that really makes the baby real to the mother and the couple. So just congratulations for all that you're doing there. So let's talk a little bit about abortion. We're approaching 50 years of legalized abortion in America, and you know, uh, it's still legal, and it's not going to be illegal anytime soon, most likely. But should we be discouraged or hopeful when it comes to this fight of saving unborn lives? And I'm primarily asking here whether you have some sort of a take or a bead on the attitudes of Americans about this important issue.
Yeah, that is a complex question. I'll start out with some of the things that are discouraging. I think that first of all, we see politically, whatever party is in control is sort of gauging the conversation. And so right now we have a lot of, if you will, pro-choice legislation going on. It's discouraging to us that abortion pills are readily available just online. I mean, a woman can, with very little instruction or guidance, get online and order pills that would help her terminate the pregnancy and never have to literally really see anybody.
And those are dangerous for the mother as well, aren't they?
Well, sure they are. I mean, there's multiple complications that can happen. I mean, how does she even know if she's pregnant? How does she even know how far along she is? Because some of those pills are very much related to the gestational age of the pregnancy. So how does she know that? Where does she go if things go wrong, if she begins to hemorrhage, or what does she do? So there's a lot of danger in that. Additionally, social media bias is not on our side. We have a lot of Google suppression, if you will, because there's a lot of political persuasion about whose name comes up at the top when you do a Google search, and what words you're allowed to use in your search engine optimization and those kinds of things. So those are some of the battles that we fight. It seems that there's more messaging allowed out into the public about what we're doing, whether it's true or whether it's not. But here's the encouraging part. The encouraging part is that there are a lot of things that people don't hear on the nightly news. For instance, pregnancy resource centers currently outnumber abortion clinics up 3-4 to 1. So there are an estimated 3,000 pro-life pregnancy resource centers scattered all over the United States.
That's great.
Yeah, there's hundreds of women and men that come through the doors of a pregnancy resource center that are never talked about on any, social media. And those are the true life stories that should really encourage us. We have a God that is sovereign over life. And so when we see a young couple or young woman that comes into one of our centers and she doesn't feel like she has any other choice but to terminate her pregnancy, we're able to walk with her throughout that pregnancy for up to the time when a baby's a year old. And we're able to see all the help that she's allowed us to give to her, all the decisions she's made because of the advice that she was given when she was here, and we see her life changed. And often we know that if her life is changed, if dad's life is changed, the baby's life is definitely going to be changed. And so our approach is to minister to the family unit kind of holistically, um, given the right truth and the right information. Parents are still more than capable of making a choice for life for their child. It's just when they're in those really dark moments, not knowing what to do, that they just need somebody to walk alongside of them. And that's what pregnancy resource centers do all over our country. So I think that's a reason for a lot of hope. The more um, Americans get behind a work like ours, um, the more pro-life our country will be. Currently, most internet statistics say that Americans are just about split 50-50, 50 pro-choice, 50 pro-life. One of the resources I looked at showed that maybe younger Americans are a little more pro-choice, older Americans more pro-life. Um, but the truth is that until you're in that situation for yourself, you may not really know how you feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're dealing with people who are, in that moment. They're in a crisis pregnancy. So you have a excuse me, you have a good handle on how to have a conversation with someone who this isn't just theoretical for them. This is the choice before them, right? That life or death.
Yeah.
Um, so um, generally speaking, uh, as you, I assume you are aware of just the legal side of this and the political side of this issue. And are you aware of any particular progress that the pro-life movement is making? I mean, uh, it sounds like you talk about how many um, clinics there are, pro-life clinics, in comparison to abortion clinics. It sounds like there's good reason for optimism there, and that's progress for sure. Are you aware of any other progress that the pro-life movement is making?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot going on in the news right now about what's happening in Texas, very pro-life state. Um, I would say in our own community here in our state, in Missouri, uh, there are not very many abortion options available in our state. That's good.
Hmm.
What's not good is that right across the state line in Illinois, uh, on the St. Louis side of the state, there's a huge mega abortion clinic that's been built. So it's not difficult for our citizens to go there, as well as just here in Kansas City, 15, 30 minutes away over in Overland Park. There's a couple of large abortion clinics. So what I feel like we see is different states are kind of taking their stand. Um, Missouri has done wonderful things for uh, pregnancy resource centers in an effort to really, really help those people that are coming to us. Every class that they come to, everything that they learn, um, the state helps us to teach them about healthy parenting on a multitude of levels, about how to care for the baby, shaken baby syndrome, alcohol affected children, safe baby sleep, all that kind of stuff. So our state has provided a way for us to be able to utilize, licensed professionals to help teach those classes, as well as helping the student to actually get benefits from that. So what I think I see is that these states where are becoming very pro-life, they're pushing very abortion-minded agendas into states that are still providing abortion. I just read something yesterday about the most states where there are the most abortions and where the abortion is the most legal without restriction. So Illinois is a big state, of course, on the coast, California, New York. So that's what I see happening, and we just, like any other thing in our worldview as Christians, is that we just let our light shine, and we shine it as brightly as we can, and we help the most people that we can. And any day that you can do that, it's rewarding.
That's great. I think a lot of pro-lifers would like to see it just, made illegal, and I can agree with that. But I think there's also an important strategy of incrementally reducing the number of abortions, like the Texas law, the heartbeat bill, heartbeat law that makes it very inconvenient, I guess, for abortionists to do abortions after the heartbeat can be detected. I mean, that's reducing the number of babies being destroyed by abortion. So that's a positive, important strategy, I think, to incrementally reduce the number of abortions. But let's talk about conversations, okay? So you have a lot of conversations, perhaps daily conversations with people about unplanned pregnancies, of course. But as you participate in those conversations, as you listen to the debate in America, what would you say are some of the common mistakes that we Christians tend to make in our conversations with people about abortion?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're asking this question. I'd like to back up 1 second. I'd like to give the listeners to the podcast a couple of resources. We're not going to be able to cover all of their questions today, but there are a couple of national organizations that they could go to their websites and maybe get some of the information that we're talking about more in depth. So Life News is a very good resource where you can get some really accurate information, and then also Live Action. Focus on the Family is another really good resource if you want to really get in and do some investigating, and then they will from there link you to other places. But I think it's one of the things that's the most important regarding this question that you're asking now is that we're fully informed. I think, like you said in the very beginning, there's so much at risk on the issue of abortion. And those of us who believe that God is the creator of life, and that every pregnancy is a God ordained life created in the image of God. And so what's at risk if that pregnancy is terminated, the child is aborted, we're talking about life and death of a real human being. And so that gets, your adrenaline going, and that gets, if you're not careful, you forget about the person that you're talking to. I love this scripture in 2 Timothy 2:23-25. It says, "Again I say, don't get involved in foolish and ignorant arguments that only start fights. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but be kind to everyone, able to teach. I think that's really important. And be patient with difficult people. Gently instruct those who oppose the truth, because perhaps God will change their hearts and they will learn the truth. And I think as Christians, that's our responsibility. We have to understand who we're talking to. Listen maybe more than we talk in the beginning. Try to understand where they're coming from. I mean, the rate of, even in our churches, the rate of people who have already experienced abortion, paid for an abortion, had a child who had an abortion, I believe it's 4 in 1 or 1 in 4. So for every 4 people at church on Sunday morning, one of them has experienced some type of abortion experience. They may feel very defensive about why they chose to do that. And it's just like, to me, leading someone to Christ, sharing the good news with somebody. When they understand that you're coming to them with helpful information in a spirit of love, that you do care about them, and that's why you want to share it, it's a much more productive conversation than when they're, like the scripture says, a quarrel or a foolish argument that just gets into opinions. Sometimes all we have to know is just a few staggering facts to get someone's attention and change the conversation. But we really don't know those things if we aren't praying while we're talking, if we're not letting the Lord lead the conversation, if we're not really listening to what the heart of that person is saying. Again, there's a couple of really good resources that people could equip themselves with for conversations. One of the books that I really like a lot is by the author Randy Alcorn. He has a book called Pro-Life Answers to Pro-Life Arguments. And so, I mean, you can just literally look at the argument that the person is presenting, and he lists a whole series of possible answers for that and resources. It's getting to where the argument, I think, is getting more frightening, because medical science has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that all the DNA about who we are is present at the moment of conception. Our hearts start beating before anybody knows that we're even around. And even medical science says life begins at conception. So then the argument becomes, who is it permissible to terminate? And I think that's where we've gone down a really slippery slope. It kind of takes you into a conversation about the entirety of the sanctity of life. You know, I'm getting older. How safe is my life? You know, if I get a certain disease or something, when am I not worth being alive anymore? Mm-hmm. So just really provoking questions. And you can honestly get into some very interesting conversations if you wind up not agreeing. Seeds have been planted. So I would encourage people not to be afraid of those conversations.
Yeah, so I think that's a really great strategy. I mean, we do need to be informed, you know, about the science. You know, it's interesting that the science has, as you say, has proven when life begins, and it's really not a scientific argument anymore. If it ever really was, it's really about body autonomy and this whole issue of choice. But even then, you know, that argument breaks down, of course, as you know, because we don't get to make every choice that we would like to make, because you know, it hurts someone else. And so if we were talking about the choice of whether to terminate the life of a 2-year-old. No one would agree with that, but because this is an unborn person, somehow people have convinced themselves that that's okay. But so I think your strategy is really to be well informed and to try to teach, but really also to lovingly and graciously, patiently build a relationship with the person that would make it possible for us to win them over. Is that a good summation of what you would recommend?
Yeah, I think so. I think too, it's getting your head out of the argument and really looking at the person that you're talking to and reminding yourself that the Lord loves that person. That person is also created in his image. He designed that person for a plan and a purpose. And he's giving you the opportunity to sow some good seed into that person's life. And scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, and so really what we're trying to do is just keep people from perishing spiritually, emotionally, physically. Our focus should be on the Lord's work with all of the people that we serve, and not just discounting the fact that if mom and dad are loved and educated and equipped, they're more than capable. We want them to be the most fierce advocates for their child.
Mhm.
And so we have to help equip them to be those fierce advocates and not act like we know better for their baby than they do. We just have to help them understand, what their role is and that they can do it. Parenthood is scary. And so just imagine when you're just totally not ready and it's not on your radar at all, getting equipped, fighting those fears, and having someone walk with you through that process to help you feel prepared. It's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen in my life. So
That's great, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're really out of time here. But I would like to give you a chance to just point people to the resource health. If someone wants to get involved with resource health or just get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
yeah, that's great. Well, anymore it's all on the website. So we do have two websites, and one is really directed towards those who need help, and that website is just resourcehealth.org. And then for those who are interested in the more in-depth workings of our organization, volunteer opportunities, donation volunteer or opportunities, those kinds of things, we have a website, resourcehealthpartners.org. So almost any information that you need to know about us, you can find in those places.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you not only for your time today and sharing your insight and your wisdom with us, but thank you so much for the work you're doing. We just pray for your work and your ministry, and just ask that God would bless it and provide all that you need to continue doing it. And for those of you who have joined us today for this conversation, I encourage you to check out those websites and continue to inform yourself about this issue, and just really prayerfully engage people in this conversation to try to win hearts and minds to the pro-life position. So thank you for joining us. Grace and peace.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Calvary Conversations, a service of Calvary University in Kansas City, Missouri. We invite you to participate in the conversation by contacting us through the Calvary University website, calvary.edu, or by calling us at 816-322-0110. Join us again next week for another Calvary Conversation.